Are you doing it? Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello,
Good
hello.
afternoon.
So here, we're so bad about introducing ourselves. So I'm Marlene, and
I'm Amber of Sweet Am's, and
Hi,
sorry if I'm a
Ivan.
little pixelated today.
We can still see you. That's okay.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hanya Hanyos.
hello. So we've got here Barbara's joining us, Cynthia, hello, Carla, Happy New Year to you.
Hello,
Hello,
Byron.
Byron. Darlene, June,
Hi,
hello.
June. Sorry to hear about your injury, June. I hope
Oh
it gets
gosh.
better.
Oh yeah, she's hurt. Hi,
Yes.
Lynn,
Hello,
Tracy.
Lynn. Hello, Spooky Dukes.
Spooky Dukes, hello. I don't know, but hello. Susan, hello.
Hello.
Lynn and
Happy
Camille,
New
welcome.
Year.
Hi,
Hello,
Camille.
Camille. Happy New Year. I hope you guys stay healthy this year and make and eat lots of cookies.
Oh, Jeremy,
Hi,
Hey,
hello.
Jeremy.
hi, Jeremy.
Yeah, June, what happened if you don't mind sharing?
Sorry, June. I didn't want to spot them.
Hi,
So, hello,
Lisa.
hello. So, how was your holiday, guys? How were the holidays for you?
Nice.
You had a
Very
good time.
uneventful, which is great.
Yes,
But
quiet
didn't
and
you get
nice
like
and
tons of
relaxing is
snow?
wonderful.
Did you get tons of snow? Like, wasn't that affecting you? No.
We didn't get, we got like a rain and some ice, but we didn't get the big snowstorm.
Yeah, that monster, they called it.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to scare us all.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Fun.
terrible.
Oh gosh.
Oh, you can still drive and you can still decorate cookies, hopefully.
Yeah, that's it. We wouldn't want to
Um,
not be able to decorate.
I know.
it's been a while since you guys seen us all, and those of you who are just thinking of starting this wonderful craft of cookie decorating, we're going to today. I'm going to show you some of the tools that you might need, some of the advanced tools, and some of the tools that if you don't want to invest a lot of money into this, you can use the very basic tools that you probably already have in the house. Oh, hello. Yeah, so this is the first live of 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up this. Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Sally.
Sally. Oh, you're in Brazil. Enjoy.
Oh,
So we use piping bags to decorate cookies, right? So many of you probably don't know, but I started with decorating 14 years ago with sandwich bags. So if you have nothing else but sandwich bags, you can still decorate cookies. You can see here also there are decorating bottles. So some of you, if you are suffering with arthritis, I hear the bottles are easier on your hands. Okay. Then you
mhm.
have regular piping bags that you can use with tips. And then we also all love tipless piping bags.
Yes.
And the old-fashioned parchment. Have you guys used parchment? Both of you?
I use parchment for chocolate.
You use parchment for chocolate? Why is
Yeah.
that? Do you?
Because you can stick it in the microwave to melt it really quickly and
Oh, I use piping bag and I still stick it in the microwave.
oh, okay. Yeah.
For like 5 seconds. I don't do like 2 minutes or
Yeah,
anything like.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I
you
always
have.
just like using parchment for chocolate. I don't know why. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Now,
saw a lady on Instagram. When she was working with chocolate, she uses a heating pad, and she puts a dish towel on it, and she keeps her chocolate bags
chocolate
on the heating
on
pad.
on the heating pad. And yeah, I used heated. Well, heating pad works better, but if you are in a pinch, I use heated baking sheet. I
Oh,
put
yes.
the baking
Oh.
on it. I
Mm-hmm.
put a towel on top of it so it wouldn't burn the chocolate because once it burns, it's not good. Another tool that you see us using when we decorate, and this is also something that you can invest in, but you probably have toothpicks around in your house turkey are they called turkey lasers?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use those. These we use to spread icing on the cookies. Now, depending on what you are working on, really fine piping tips of scribes, metal scribes are great for fine detail work. Like if you're trying to create marbling, and then we all love our two-in-one tools. They come in two different sizes. As you saw there, there's a pink one and the yellow one. Yellow one is available pretty much everywhere. Pink one is can be harder to find, but I got mine from Stencibel.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you can use it either to spread the icing, or you can use the other end, the shovel end, to actually clean up the edges. Or if you made a mistake, you can pick up some icing with this little shovel there. So that's a great tool to have. But if you don't have anything else, you can use just toothpicks. Here I'm using a toothpick. So these are like the very basic tools, right? Piping bags, you need something to move the icing. You have other things you can move the icing with. If you're working with, let's say, gingerbread houses and you need to cover a large area, I like to use an Amber. You are familiar with these as well, right? Because we use
Yeah.
palette knives as well. They move icing very quickly. If you're trying to make ombre, maybe ombre background with different colors, you can use that, or marble icing with the palette knives as well. And these work in buttercream cookie decorating also. So another tool that we use are scissors. So I highly recommend, if you're going to use piping bags, I highly recommend you invest in high quality scissors. I know both of you probably use, Marlene, you use sewing scissors, right?
Well, the small scissors to snip thread, I find that's what cuts. Like when you have to do a really precision cut on a tipless
Yeah.
bag to get the hole just right. I like that.
Yeah. So you need sharp scissors. So that's another, I know this is something like, oh, of course I have scissors, but not all scissors are equal. So
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
have really dull scissors, it's going to give you a hard headache.
Well,
Now-
the end gets just more chewed. It's not cutting. It's like it chews it up. And
Exactly. Now, another thing, if you want to color your real icing, you're gonna need food color. Now, I would say stay away from the food color that you buy in a grocery store. That's the liquid, you know, the one that comes in. Is it little? Is it bottles, or how does it come? It's like little long bottles. No, it looks
It
like
looks
almost
like,
a
I mean, the
strap.
ones that I've seen are like a teardrop shape. I don't know if they still make those or if I'm just remembering the ones from the 90s, but do you remember that? It's like a little
Yes.
teardrop shaped bottle with like a little triangle
But,
top on it.
I haven't bought grocery store food color since for like a gazillion years. I'd like to think that even that has improved, because when I go to the cake section at my grocery store, they carry Wilton products.
Oh,
They have like,
colors. Okay, well, when
I
I
don't,
lived in
I'm
the
just
States, they
saying,
did not have any food color. They only had the very generic, you know, the diluted food color that I wouldn't recommend using for cookie decorating.
yes.
You can use it in a pinch, but if you are looking for really vibrant, deep colors, I would say that you need to use concentrated food colors. Here are just some options that you see on the screen. I love using Americolor brand, also Chef Master. Wilton has really nice selection also, and Pro Gel. And this is Master Elite. So Master Elite, it's powder form, but you need to mix it with water to activate it, and then you can add it to your real icing. Now, another tool that we often use are these knives. These are called pen blade knives, and these are great for hand cutting cookies. So if you don't have a specific cookie cutter, you can use these. Yes, you can use an X-Acto knife, but these, the way the blade is designed, you can really get very close to the template, and it's really easy to use. You cannot replace the blade like
Yeah,
you can
that's,
on an X-Acto knife. I would say that's the only disadvantage, but they do last for a fairly long time. I've had these for many years, and they
and
do
if you're
last.
cutting cookie dough, right, it's not like you're cutting anything that really dulls your blade terribly.
Exactly. Yes. And another thing I wanted to mention with the COVID now, this is with the COVID, you know, when you use different we use petal dust and things on cookies. So these bottles also work great for removing that instead of blowing on your cookies. In case anyone wants to, yeah, they're on
I
the
was
fence.
wondering where you were going with that.
Yes. Another tool that I love using is this tool. Do you guys know what this is? Anyone has this?
Or you saw it maybe at the grocery store.
This is a gadget that I picked up many years ago when I was doing the classes. I started doing in-person classes, and I remember I was tying, I don't know, 500 bags. I don't know. It was insane. So then I was like, there's got to be an easier way, and this is the easier way to do it because you can tie the bags. The only thing is you need to twist it and then run it through the gadget. And what I love about this tool, that gadget, that you can purchase different colored tape. So I have red, but there are like rainbow colors available. So you can do that. And also, if you're using same color of icing, but you're using, let's say, 3 different consistencies, so you can differentiate your piping bags.
Oh, that's smart.
Adding more stripes. So obviously for the most fluid, I use, let's say, 3 stripes. This is maybe, let's say, 10-second consistency. Then my 20-second will have 2 stripes, and then the piping consistency will have 1 stripe. So this way you can easily differentiate which consistency you are working with, so you don't accidentally grab a different bag.
That's a great idea.
So another tool we use a lot, and these are edible markers. And I know these, we have faced over the years some controversy online because people think these are not edible markers, right, Amber? Can you?
Oh yeah, we always get those comments. Why are you drawing on your cookies?
It's toxic.
She's using a marker. It's toxic. Well, these are markers, but these are edible markers. They are fully edible. Not fully edible. The ink is edible. I don't want you to.
Yeah, don't eat them.
You can use them on cookies, directly on cookies, or also on royal icing. Now there are different brands available. I want to ask Marlene, what's your favorite brand of edible markers?
Well, over the years, I think Food Doodler was one of my preferred. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that Food Doodler actually does some of the other brands. They, you know what I mean, like and just packages with, because if you look at if you look at the packaging of some other of the competitors, they look a lot alike. So they've been in business. They were the first. They actually made a marker to include with Pop-Tarts back in the day. They made, so they were kind of like the first to ever make an edible ink marker.
And how about you, Amber? Do you have like favorite brand that you go to over and over?
Yeah, number 1 is Food Doodler, and then Rainbow Dust for when I need a super fine line.
Yes. So you see in the picture, the Food Doodlers are in a packaging in a purple. There's like a purple outline frame, and right next to it, I have it's called they're called Rainbow Dust. The only thing is, Rainbow Dust, you cannot get them in a pack. You have to get individual, as far as I know, unless you can maybe on their website can get two pack of the same. But my favorite is the black from the Rainbow Dust black, and I love their gray. Although people, I remember because it says silver, but it's not. It says silver gray on the label. You can see it even there, but it's not silver like luster dust silver. It's silver gray. So I like using that marker, and I'll show you where I like to use it. So you can use it with templates if you want to transfer. Oh, here it is. So I used gray marker on this design. So I let my icing dry, and then I had a template, and I used my gray. The reason I use gray is because it doesn't show as much as if I was to use black, right? So it's not as obvious when you are done with decorating your cookies. It hides pretty well under icing. So edible markers are great to use.
So pan, all great stuff. Just looking at the time.
Yes.
We jump to the consistency to quickly look at.
Let's do the consistency. There are many more tools, guys. You can also visit my blog where I cover all different tools. And as we are going through these lives, our weekly lives, we will be sharing a lot of tools with you. I'm just popping. I'm gonna pop my link to the cookie decorating tools where you can find all of it, and it's listed on my blog. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's in the
So,
comments there. So,
so
Marlon,
today we just wanted to basically gently wave in anyone who was kind of on the side of the pool looking at this cookie stuff saying, it looks interesting. So we do these live streams, and then we also have a ton of videos online available if you guys want to learn. And we have our groups. All of us have a group on Patreon. Amber, are you focusing more on the other? I don't want to promote a
Yeah,
different
no. So
thing.
I still have Patreon. I'm still going to be posting all my content on Patreon, but I also just started the Sweet Am's Cookie Art Club. So it's basically all the same content, but it's more organized, and also members can share their photos in on the platform with me and with each other. It's just like it's more of a community feel. So that's why I'm
Okay.
kind of migrating over to the other one.
So they'd find that link in your, where would they
Yeah, if you
find
go
that?
to Instagram, it's the link in my bio.
In your link tree or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's it, guys. So today, if you want to, we're just giving you a light dose. And then if you want to go further, you can get the more in-depth classes. Han has her blog. She has a ton of recipes. Amber has her blog. So today we're just, like I said, gently waving you in. Han looked at the products, and now I'm just gonna. One of the biggest questions we get is consistency. So when you make a batch of royal icing, generally when you first make it, it's quite thick. Okay, so there's basically, it's not a ton of ingredients in royal icing. So why do we use royal icing? Well, essentially it's because it dries hard. So you can package your cookies, you can stack them, and you can do really some very unique to royal icing like techniques with it. You can practically sculpt with it. The more you practice, you can see some really incredible stuff done with royal icing. And so here you can see this is basically meringue powder. So you can use egg white, or you can use dehydrated, what is it?
dehydrated egg. You mean dry egg whites?
Dry egg whites, or you can even use the juice there from chickpeas in a can of chickpeas
Yeah,
and
aquafaba.
make it vegan. And so then it's powdered sugar and water, and you can add flavoring to it. You can add lemon juice. Obviously, you want to strain out the pulp. You don't want to have chunks in there. And
Yeah,
yes, so you
piping bag. Like,
clog up your piping bag and your tip. So like you can see here, it's quite thick. So why would you have it thick? That's it. That's it. So you'd have it thick to do things where you're using a piping tip and you want, when you squirt it out, for the little designs that are kind of in the steel to remain. Because if you're using runny icing and you use, let's say, a star piping tip, well, that detail will just fade away. So you want to have a thicker icing for this type of thing, or maybe ruffles on a flower, or petal, or ruffles on a dress, any kind of relief type stuff. Hey, Donna. And then
hello.
to flood a cookie, well, you're using the same icing, but you're adding water to it. And the big problem, hello.
Hi,
So the
Grandma.
big problem when you add water, that generally what happens is people add too much water at once. So you, especially at the beginning, before you've figured out the whole consistency thing, here you can see the water is in a squirt bottle, but with a little tiny piping tip, and you're just adding the water a few drops at a time and then stirring. And until you really get it down, you want to do this as slowly as this, so that you don't cross the line. Because once you cross the line and it becomes too liquid, well, it's not going to give you that nice relief icing. If you look at a decorated cookie, the icing is kind of up. If you have a really runny icing, it does more like a varnish. It dries very, very flat. And it doesn't, like, sometimes if you're filling in little holes, it'll, like little areas, it'll create a dent, and it just doesn't dry nicely, because you've essentially taken out all the air. When you add too much water, there's just no more air. And why do you need the air? Well, that's what, the egg white, you activated the egg white when you whipped it, you fluffed it up. If you add all this water, well, then there's no more air, there's no more fluffy, it just becomes water. So I'm stirring it, adding a few drops at a time and looking at it. So you want to see in the bowl if it's going to like heal. What does heal mean? It means smooth over, right? You want it smooth on the cookie, so you want to have it smooth out in the bowl. See here, it's taking a long time, so I'm going to add a little bit more water. You guys want to add anything? Any pearls of wisdom?
Pearls of wisdom. Stock up on Wilton meringue powder. It's going up, right? It's like, what's your favorite? So the meringue powder, as you said, it's dry egg whites, cream of tartar, gum arabic, and other additives. So you can make it at home if you have access to dry egg whites. Otherwise, meringue powder is readily available. But with the prices going up as much as they are going up, it may be increasingly more expensive. So there are other alternatives like aquafaba you can use. Chickpea brine from chickpeas. Basically, buy the can and you drain it through a fine mesh sieve, and you can freeze it because there is a lot of it in there. There is really no taste to the vegan royal icing made with aquafaba. There is like not an off taste. And I have a recipe for vegan royal icing on the blog. You can also use fresh eggs. If you can find in the store pasteurized eggs, they are usually white with a red stamp on it, circled P. Those also work. But meringue powder, it is my preferred. What about you, Amber, to use to make
I use Wilton meringue powder, and I usually get it from Walmart because I find they have the best price on it.
Walmart?
So I don't like buy it in bulk. I just buy it, in the regular size cans.
I think you can use the Michael's coupon to get it at Michael's if you want a little bit of savings.
So there are obviously other brands, but
yeah, those, like, I have a local brand that I use, and I think it might be a little bit less expensive because it's not like it's locally made and everything, so it's not the shipping and all that. So, and it's like I get it, it's a bulk thing. It's for restaurants, so I think it's a little bit less expensive. But no point in my saying it's not available online. So. So a couple of things I want to mention. If you have a very thick icing and you're working with a very small opening in your piping bag, you will blow up undoubtedly your piping bag. So you need to have icing that is, on the more kind of runny side if you're planning on using a small opening in your piping bag for detail and stuff. It's probably a little bit thicker than this you'd want, but the thicker the bag, the more squeezing you're going to do. And if you're squeezing very hard, well, your hand shakes and it's very difficult to do a straight line. So it's much easier, and it's not a question of easier. It's almost you have to do it that way. You need a runnier icing. You think, oh, well, I want the line to stay, put. And so you think that you need it thick, but no, it's coming out of a tiny hole. The line is not going to move. It stays in place. So this looks like, this would be, I think, my flood. And let's say it's not healing for whatever reason. If you just shake it, this little motion will help it. Okay?
Can you explain what is flood?
Flood is when you basically coat the surface or fill an area and you want it to like self-level, so the icing kind of like pools out and lays down and smooths like a flat surface. And so if you're doing, let's say, some of the cookies that Han showed earlier, where are your nice feathered these guys here? So if you're doing something like this, so you achieve the consistency you want, and then you portion it out into bowls to pigment it, so that all of your colors are the same consistency, so that you get a really nice flat surface. If you have a variety of colors and consistencies, well, let's say that light purple would, if it was thicker than the rest, that light purple would actually be a bump up. And let's say the dark purple was runnier, well, that would be a bump down. It'll dry flatter, and the thicker dries higher. So you want to achieve your consistency before you start pigmenting. So you could color, let's say, the light purple, put it in a bag, add another drop of purple, put it in a bag, add another drop of purple, and that's how you get your, like, she's got them. You've got 4 shades of purple, I think, on this particular cookie.
Yes.
So you don't have to dirty 4 bowls. You can do it that way if you're doing like ombre thing, like I say. So you just do the lightest and then add and add and add.
Do you think you can use this icing to make this?
No.
Okay, that's a question for you guys. Can you show us? Can Marlene use this icing? This
I'd say it's
consistency.
probably a little too thick, actually. Like as I
Can she use this to make this design? Oops. And the winner gets.
So the basket weave is a piping tip that you purchase,
Yes.
and the icing, when you squirt it out, it comes out flat and has these little teeth. And so again, that's why you need an icing that's able to hold those little teeth. And so you can kind of swirl the icing in the bowl and shake it. And generally how it reacts in the bowl is how it's going to be on your cookie, you know? What did June say?
No and no and no. This is a good question. Thank you for asking. Sugar Code Bakery. Hi, Happy New Year. Any tips on preventing air bubbles?
Well, ideally, I think for the air bubbles, you kind of leave your bowl after you've done this step, put the lid on it, make sure you cover royal icing because air dries, and just let it, and then gravity will lift up those air bubbles. And then if you still have air bubbles, some people now, the thing I've been seeing is they put them in the piping bag and they spin the bag, create a centrifuge so that the air pocket or the air.
I would hit it with I would hit it with my palm of my hand, but also like if you bang it on the counter, it starts to pop. Also,
Starts to pop.
I mean,
So
yeah,
let's say,
it's great, but it's gonna. And if you have to do it with 50 bags, then good luck.
yes, that's it. So let's say you've crossed the line and it's too runny. You're like, oh, darn. Well, always reserve some icing, okay? Especially if you're a beginner. And then you can go and scoop up a little bit of the thicker and put it in the icing that you think is too runny. Because I find that if you're adjusting your consistency, this works better than adding powdered sugar. It's like you can adjust your consistency and then you bring it back to a little bit thicker by adding that little bit of the thicker.
Well, what happens? Okay, yes, this is a good Denise. Yes, I guess your puppy likes sugar. Yes, so it is. Why is it important to cover royal icing? I mean, yes, the access of puppies or other four like friends denied, but what is the main reason?
Well, the main reason is you don't want it to dry. It dries actually surprisingly fast, especially in the winter now. If you have your heat on, the air is very dry. So humidity will, lack of humidity, a dry kind of climate or a humid climate will impact how fast it dries. And if your icing is taking a very long time to dry, you can have bleeding problems because there's more time for the leaching to occur between the areas. Let's say you have a red section and a white section touching, and it takes a very long time for things to dry. Well, can be a leaching. So you can either use a fan or a dehydrator type thing to, speed that process up. But the icing, if you don't cover it up, it will dry. And the other thing comments that I've gotten is people worry about the cookies getting stale. So you cover your cookies with the icing. So it's on a cookie sheet. The cookie's on there. You've covered the top with icing and you need to leave it dry overnight. If you cover it because you're worried about the cookies getting stale, well, your icing won't dry. And you don't have to worry about the cookies getting stale. That's not, it's the perimeter that's exposed. This is the process. It's fine. Don't worry, your cookies will be fine. They're not going to get stale in 24 hours.
I do have one tip I want to share. You see the bowl Marlon is using. So if you cover this, you see the bowl is not filled with royal icing. You're maybe halfway up.
Yeah.
So if you cover this bowl with a lid, most likely the very edges,
this
will
edge, yeah,
start crusting. So yeah, it will start
yes,
crusting even covered. So you can either use food wrap, or when you open it up first, you can give it a light mist with royal, let it sit for several minutes, and that a little bit of water is going to help kind of soften that crusted edge. So hopefully you won't, because the most annoying is when your icing crusts over like this in a bowl, and then you stir it and you can forget about it, because all those little bits of dried up icing are gonna get in your tubes or in your piping bags and clogs up the bag. So what's this consistency?
Oh, this is pretty, this will flood. This is flood. So this, if again, you're doing very small piping tip, the thing is you're using this, I find it fuses more to the surface. If you're using, let's say, a 1.5 piping tip and your icing is that little bit too thick, I find that it chips off very easily. So if you have it a little bit runnier, because the piping tip is so small, it keeps your line and the fuse, like, you're less susceptible to chipping, because that's annoying too. You package your bags and then you have little bits falling off.
Yeah.
So that's it for consistency, guys. Amber's going to, with a warm down. Yes, that's great. That's a very good too.
We have a question from Kathy. Let's just address this. Kathy, do you put baked cookies on paper towel to prevent butter bleed? If so, for how long? I have done it overnight. I've done that overnight, but I put them the face down. That's what I put them face down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, face down.
I think things to worry about the butter bleed is if you use a dehydrator, try to keep it to a shorter period, because you're actually heating up the cookies and therefore the butter in your cookies, and that can kind of liquefy the butter again and cause butter bleed. And what is butter bleed? Amber, do you want to tell them what butter bleed is?
Maybe we can use this question also to bring the Amber on the screen.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have some tips on this as well?
Yeah, so butter bleed is when the butter from the cookie melts and it leaks into the icing and stains it. So it'll show up, if you have white icing, it'll show up as yellow blotches. Or if your icing is like, any color, it'll show up as like dark, kind of oily looking blotches on your cookies. So that's butter bleed. There's really, if it happens, there's no way to get rid of it. You can just like kind of hope that it covers the entire cookie so it's not blotchy. Or you can, not worry about it and just cover it with some decorations like roses or lettering or whatever. And then,
or in a pinch, I guess you could
paint it.
Paint it. I've done them before, yeah.
I'm thinking with the butter bleed, I'm sure you've seen the cookies that are fully flooded, and then there is like just a little bit of icing smeared over it, and it's
yes,
it's like a really cool. It's very nice. Yeah, it's like you could actually you could also do that and hide that if it's like really bothers you. But sometimes butter bleed can happen after your cookies are fully decorated. That's
absolutely.
So we do have questions. I'm going to bring Amber is going to show us something.
Yeah, something.
So thank you for all so much for doing these tips on how. Do you have any tips on how to keep cookies fresh during the shipping process?
Yeah, so I heat seal my cookies in little cello bags. I get my cello bags from Nashville Wraps, and I have a heat sealer. You can get a heat sealer on Amazon. I got mine from Uline like 10 years ago, and it still works great.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, heat seal them in plastic, and they will be fine. Mine,
I would say like 3 weeks. You do have one more tip, and I know of this tip too. You do have one more tip. How can you prolong the shelf life of the cookies? So, you use agave. Right?
Yes, I use agave syrup in my cookies, so that kind of helps hold on to the moisture, so they can stay out longer. If you're decorating your cookies, sometimes for up to 2 days, like 2 or 3 days is a little much. But it can take that long if you're doing a set of cookies that need lots of steps and they always have to dry overnight. So the agave syrup just helps to keep it a little bit fresher for longer. So, thank you. All right, so I'm going to be coloring the icing. So you can see this icing has been sitting here, and all those little air bubbles came up to the top. So like we were saying before, you just let your icing sit, and then your air bubbles come to the top, and you could kind of just pop them. I always keep my spatula in a cup of water to keep it clean. And then I'm just going to wipe the excess water on a towel before I put it into my icing so I don't mess up my consistency. So then just kind of paddle that gently to pop the air bubbles. And this is flood consistency. My flood is actually a little bit thinner than I think what Marlon uses. We all kind of have our own like way of doing things. cookie decorator does it a little bit differently. So you can see mine's like tiny bit thinner. But you know, whatever you're comfortable with. So you just have to practice, try different things, see what works best for you. So I'm going to be using Chef Master. This is one of the brands that Han was showing us earlier. These are gel. It's like pretty thick gel. This one's rose pink. They're very concentrated, so you don't need to use very much, and it won't really affect your icing consistency. So I'm going to start out by using a very light pink.
So if I can just mention, sometimes the color's not coming out, and so you're like, "Well, I'm going to squeeze harder." Next thing you know, you've got a giant blob in your bowl. So maybe if you're a beginner, you can squeeze it into a dish and then put it in your icing, because you could end up.
This has the, you know, the ketchup bottle effect. You know, when you start, you know, you hit the bottom, you think it's empty, and then suddenly you have a, you know, like a cup of ketchup on your fries.
So I'm just going to start to squeeze out a little drop of color, and I'm just going to touch my spatula to it to get the tiniest little dot of color. So in my tutorials, like I always write out the instructions and for the color. So you'll see I say a touch of this color or a touch of that color. That's what I mean. Like touch the color to your spatula to get like a very, very light shade of pink.
Karen got your book for Christmas. She says she loves it.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Thank you, Karen. So that's a touch of color. And I don't know if you have...
Kathy's asking, is it okay to stack decorated cookies?
Yeah, once they're dry, you can...
For storage, meaning does the bottom of the cookie affect the icing of the one it is laying on? Well,
that's the great thing about royal icing, is that if it's dry, you could throw it across the room and nothing will happen to it.
You'll get an email tomorrow, I'm sure.
All right, so now I'm just going to make a darker shade. I just wanted to show you how I make super light colors. I'm going to add one full drop of color.
Bag some of it in it, right? That's how you make, and then you start. So you don't have to use several bottles.
Right.
And you don't always have to start from white. So if you have, let's say you have pink left over and then you want to make another color, well, depending on the color, you can maybe use your pink and color it with, let's say, some blue, and then you're going to make purple. You don't have to always start from white, is my point. Your colored icing can be used to make other colors.
I hardly ever start with white these days. It's always like an adventure.
But I remember when I first started, in my mind, like, you know, you had to start with white. Like, it's just, you get sometimes these things in your head, whatever.
I told you, Amber.
I know, you're right. So I don't know if anybody has this issue with the color, but when I add this color, I find that it makes it a little bit thicker.
Me too. I have that. I'm attesting to it. Yes, I sometimes I will have that with certain colors, but not all. Like, it's very weird. I don't know whether it's the way the specific colors are made or what they have in them. But it will sometimes happen. So I have to double check the.
Yeah. So I have my squeeze bottle here also, and I'm just going to add another few little drops of water just to thin it back down to the consistency that I want.
So VP, are certain gel colors better than others? Looking at Chipmaster, Americolor brand, and Clark or Wilton. And Clark is food color now? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They recently launched that. If I can just mention, I saw on Amazon recently that, you know, stocks seem to be an issue. The prices had gone up because Amazon pricing is a little bit also, you know, if there's lack of a certain thing, it drives the prices up. So, you know, if there's a big variation in price, that can maybe help you make your decision, just to mention.
So let's start with you, Mark. Do you have a preferred
I mean, I was using Americolor exclusively for many years, and then I was using a few Rainbow Dust because they have some unique colors.
Mhm.
And now Chef Master is very good. I think that Wilton has their color. What's it called, Amber?
Color right.
Color
Right.
right.
I do have them here. Hold on, I'm just gonna quickly bring it up. So here you can I have a comment up. So there are different colors here they can use, but the Rainbow Dust is the Pro Gel, right? There, right? That's the
Yes,
brand.
Pro Gel.
Pro Gel. They are
Yeah.
very concentrated also.
So yeah, it's now I mean price is a factor. And so the colors you're going to have issues with usually generally is black and red. That's when I say issue, it's getting it to be black and getting it to be red and then bleeding. So
And not having a weird taste.
And
yes.
purple. Purple is also pain.
Yeah, purple, you're right. Yes.
Purple. So I've used Americolor brand for many years. Now I use Americolor brand, Chef Master, some Wilton from Color Right, is it called? Or Color.
Color
So
right.
now
Yeah.
we're going to be making what?
Yeah, so another fun thing you can do with royal icing is make your own sprinkles. And we've got Valentine's Day coming up. I'm going to be using these for a project that I'm working on next week.
Very nice.
And so I've got some red icing here. I made this with Chef Master Super Red. The consistency is a little bit thicker than Flood, somewhere like kind of soft peak, somewhere in there. I have a decorating tip 1 on here. And then when I hold my bag, I just have a handful of icing here, and the rest of it is back here, held in by a bag tie. I give this a little twist just to help with the pressure. Because if you're just squeezing like from the middle of the bag, it's all your icing's gonna just kind of go up instead of down. So it's good to just give it a little squeeze. So that's gonna help it squeeze where you want it. I have a damp paper towel here. So this is somebody had asked earlier how to prevent the tips from getting clogged. I always just put them in a towel, a damp paper towel. And then if they do, I know Han doesn't want me to do this, but I'm going to put my scribe tool here.
The reason I don't want her to do it because the tip is very, very sharp and you can scratch the inside
Mm-hmm.
of your piping tip. If you're working with very expensive tips,
yes, don't do that with your PMEs.
Yeah, because then once it's scratched, the metal, you can unscratch it so the icing may come out funny. But it's only on one side, so if you know what I mean, like so you can, if it's scratched on one end, you can turn it and it will come out right. But
yeah,
I'm not mad or anything.
Okay.
VP, you are a total beginner. You are in the right place. Thank you for being here.
I have this. This is wax paper wrapped around this like plastic board. I have a ton of these boards that I use for royal icing transfers because I can just move this out of the way when I need to dry my transfers. And these sprinkles would be considered royal icing transfers, just very tiny ones, because you can transfer it to a cookie when it's dry. So I'm just gonna do my little hearts. I'm just doing teardrop shapes. So there's one going this way and then one going this way. To make little hearts. And I've got this hand supporting that to keep it steady.
Oh, Angie's trying to make some type of Mardi Gras sprinkles. So you could use the 3 colors, I think. And
yeah.
If you could just do line. I would just do, you know what might be fun? If you put the 3 colors in a piping bag, like you stripe the bag and you just pipe lines and then you break it up.
Yes, that would be
all
great.
3 colors together, not separate, but have 3 of all 3 if you want to do something different, maybe. Try that. What are the symbols of like there's a masquerade? No,
Yeah.
Mask.
Crown. Is there a fleur de lis or no?
Yeah, I think there is a fleur de lis.
Fleur de lis. So maybe if you have a stencil, fleur de lis might be nice. If you have small,
it's on the Quebec flag, the fleur de lis. That's our whatever our flag.
This one I did. I don't know if this is going to be dry enough, but when it's dry, it should just pop right off. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
See,
Because
so then
these These are so small. These take no time to dry.
Yeah.
Like, by
Are
the
you
time-
making a piñata?
Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah, with
She
the
doesn't want to
clear
say.
sugar. Huh?
You don't want to say.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
But not like where you would. Yeah, I guess you could consider it that, but it wouldn't.
No, you know what I feel now? Like the movie is coming out, and you either asking an actor all these questions, and you can't say anything because it's in the contract. You can't say that, so
Yeah.
you're like trying to avoid give too much information out. So
It's gonna be a surprise. Yeah, so that's it, and then you can just put those into your cookies, on top of your cookies, whatever you want. Make different shapes, make some dots.
Yeah, exactly. So many, you could make dots. You can, when you have your leftover icing, you know, it's a great way to
there's so
use up
many
your
things.
icing.
Anything. I have transfers here. I have 2 bags. I didn't know if we were gonna run out of time, but we don't need them.
Yeah.
We're good.
Time.
Well, I have
Okay.
the
Maybe Zoom, yeah.
cookie
Wants us to see the fine print.
canvas.
There's Amber's book. That's on Amazon, I think,
On
to get it.
Amazon, yep. Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
And it
Oh, yeah, all the holidays.
Step-by-step pictures and all the recipes and everything. Cookie
Beautiful.
canvas.
So we're gonna prepare our schedule this week. We're gonna look at it. We were taking some time off for for the holidays, guys. So we're gonna sit down together and have a little brainstorming session and get our schedule down for you. We'll release that probably for the next live. And so yeah, we just wanted to kick off the season quickly to like I said, wave you guys in that are sitting on the edge. They're looking at us, wondering if maybe. Well, you see. Just it's one step at a time. You can start off with royal icing transfers if you're worried about cookies. Just get your hands in the icing and get acclimated and make some, just some sugar decorations on parchment paper. And then when you're comfortable, you can make a batch of cookies. There's a ton of recipes. Amber has recipes in her book, blog. Han has them on her blog. And yeah, guys, so we'll see you next week. Probably, I want to say Tuesday or Friday, but we're going to be cutting it down to one time a week. Like I said, we're still kind of figuring out our schedule.
I will be sending out a newsletter if you want to receive the reminder about the lives and also weekly cookie decorating newsletter. You can sign up. I put a link in the comment section.
Yeah, guys. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.